Invincible episode 6. Absolutely loved it, but I got a couple of concerns about it too. Let me go ahead and dive in real quick. And before we do any of that, make sure that you like and subscribe. I repeat, like and subscribe. Check this out real quick. All right, so episode 6 is pretty much a carbon copy of chapters 73 and 74 in the comic. And let me go ahead and break that down with the comparisons real quick. So the episode opens up with Thrag and Thetis giving each other sides motivational speeches about winning a war, showing galactic battles in the process and the time span, yada, yada, yada. And while that's going on, you got Nolan giving Conquest a traditional Viltrumite burial, and Oliver calls him out on his BS. And I love that considering how Conquest tried to pretty much rip Oliver in half. And Oliver really keeps that attitude going for most of the time that Mark is trying to recover, and Nolan tries to make the best of the situation, being stuck with his sons or whatever, but Oliver ain't making it easy. And this plays out the same way that it did in the comics with no difference. Now, while all this is going on, you still got Allan and Zoe stuck on that Viltrumite ship playing video games. And I don't see why people don't like Tech Jacket's change from a dude to a chick, because honestly, I kind of find it hilarious. I ain't gonna lie to you. But anyway, while they playing video games, Allan catch wind on what the Viltrumites is about to do while eavesdropping and go ahead plotting his escape. And then we pan back over to Oliver and Omni-Man dealing with each other and all these scenes from Oliver eating and trying to train and all this stuff. All that play out just like the comic, except for Oliver's teenage emotions towards his pops. And I get it. He think his daddy don't want him. But Omni-Man keeps trying, and I got to give him credit for it, though. He keep pushing. Meanwhile, you pan back over to Allan and Tech Jacket, and they get the chance to escape. And they doing this while gaming. It's hard for them to put a controller down, which I find is hilarious. And they make a run. But while they're making a run, Allan gets slowed down by Tech Jacket not being able to move fast enough. And then he gives her a boost to go ahead and deal with Lucan and whoever Slugger is. I be forgetting the dude's name. Now, Allan does his best to fight off the two Viltrumites, but it don't seem like it's enough because they start to get ready to impale him before Zoe shows back up with Space Racer with that iron on his hip, and Space Racer manages to save him by shooting a hole through the other Viltrumite. Now, this particular scene played out the same way that it did in the comics, except for Space Racer didn't blow no hole through nobody or anything like that, but he did show up with that iron. And back to Nolan and Oliver still beefing. You see these two eating just like how they was in the comic. But Oliver gets offended when Nolan thinks that it's comfortable to start talking about his mama like they're cool or whatever. And Oliver kills that conversation real quick. But anyway, they end up having to go get eggs for Mark to recover better and come across this giant bug that they have to double team to defeat. Oliver makes a good decision not to kill the bug so it could keep laying eggs for Mark, which made sense and showed some smarts. Next, we see Allan and Tech Jacket make their way back to Talescria, and General Talia finds Allan in a very touching moment in which Tech Jacket decided to chime in with a hug. Also, bruh, I love Zoe. She too damn hilarious. But anyway, they make their way past the Data Twins and go holler at Thetis and discuss some strategies about the war. And this is going on while Nolan and Oliver continue to get to know one another, and they start to eventually come around and bond. Now, from this point, we enter a montage of the Coalition wrecking shop and weakening the Viltrumite forces. We catch glimpses of the Viltrumites getting their asses handed to them, and even a loss is taken by the Coalition. And still through all of this, Oliver and Nolan are getting closer to one another as Mark gets better. And all of this plays out the same way that it does in the comic, too. And then we cut to the leader of the Viltrumites, Thrag, stressing over being overwhelmed by the Coalition while conversing with General Creed. Thrag decides to strike Talescria, but Creed doesn't think that's too much of a good idea, but he quickly comes around when he sees that he might not want to make Thrag too angry. And then it flips for the 90th time to Nolan and Oliver, walking and having some personal talk. You know what I mean, like some real personal talk. Before they get to the camp and see that Mark's not there. But old Mark done shook back and somehow wandered to Conquest's grave thinking that it might have been Oliver or Omni-Man. But Nolan and Oliver show up and they're happy as hell and starts greeting him and stuff like that. And Nolan lets Mark know how long he's been out and how he's killed Conquest, but quickly gives him a reminder that they're still in war. They switch over to Talescria shortly after Thetis discussing the Coalition's success with the other council members, and they don't seem too pleased based on how many lives are being lost, but old stupid greedy Thetis tries to convince them otherwise that they're fine, just before being attacked, just like in the comics. Thetis gets up through some rubble as the Viltrumite spaceship destroyed the Talescria cities. Meanwhile, General Creed is flushing everybody looking for Thetis, and Thetis pops up and starts beating him to death. And let me just pause for a second to say that I don't like this. I don't like how strong Thetis is because I don't like Thetis. Thetis was never this strong in the comics. He was strong, but not that strong, because in the show, it looked like he holding his own against Anissa, pushing her back and everything else. But, oh well. And speaking of Anissa, shortly after she get pushed back by Thetis, she start beating up on Tech Jacket. And Poe let Tech Jacket. Tech Jacket be holding her own, but she ain't no match for no Viltrumite. She start getting her skin ripped off. But as she does, Mark comes through with the save. And then you see the camera pan up to him looking all gangster and whatnot, man. Mark looking like he just came out the hyperbolic time chamber, man. And meanwhile, while all that's going on, you see Mark, he noticed some lasers that's coming from the sky, but it's coming from that Viltrumite spaceship. And then he gonna go grab Oliver, and they go fly through, boom, fly right through the spaceship the same way that it did in the comics. And I love that panel because the panel shot looked just like how it did in the comics. You see Thrag lose his shit once the ship starts falling, and he notices Lord Argyle's skull falling out, but he quickly jumps out and grabs it just like a baby. Now, once all that happened with the ship, you start to see the Viltrumites get pushed back, and then Thrag comes to his senses and orders a retreat, and everybody flies out the planet. But while everybody flies out the planet, everybody knows that the spaceship is still falling towards the city. So you got Mark, Omni-Man, Allan, even Thetis, and I think Oliver hop up there too, and they all start pushing the broken spaceship into outer space orbit. And that's another scene that happens straight out of the comics. But then once everybody get everything straight with the spaceship, they fly down and start rescuing everybody. But Theta starts to understand that there might have been a mole amongst them. And then they figured out that it might have been one of the Data Twins. Allan goes up and grabs the wrong Data Twin, the skinny one. But then you got old stank-ass Big Back trying to get away. And then they go ahead and get him. But old boy, the other Data Twin, the skinny one, shoot his ass right in the head. And deservingly so. He comes clean about his betrayal and starts telling everybody the truth, but ain't nobody trying to hear that. They just want to know what the next move is. And eventually he does tell them what Thrag is about to go do, which gives Thetis the idea to go ahead and launch their attack on planet Viltrum. And shortly right after all of that, you get a little post-ending credit scene with Conquest's grave, and it pans out making you think that Conquest is going to come back alive, but all you see is Mark's footsteps. I don't think he's coming back. And that's going to be the wrap-up for that episode. And look here, let me tell you something. I ain't going to sit up here and lie to you, but the only thing that I didn't like about the episode, or that I'm not liking about this in general, is Thrag's voice. I don't have a problem with old boy doing his voice or whatever, but he's too damn calm. When I read that comic, I needed Thrag's voice to be a little bit more menacing, a little bit more rugged, a little bit more mean. Something's gonna make you fear that shit. But I don't fear his voice. I'm chilling just listening to him. But oh well, that's subjective. But if you like more of this content and you want more of this content, and it doesn't really matter because we're gonna put this content out anyway, just make sure you give a like and subscribe. And I ain't gonna hold y'all, but saucy out.